I really do think this is why I might have my little shifter problems. I went and picked up paint, like legitimate paint, and a paint gun, a cheap little Harbor Freight gun, which no paint guy recommends, but it is doable. This was expensive. Welcome back to another episode of Broke From Here, guys. If you were with me in the last episode, then you know that we ended up getting the Audi running, and it was purring. Now, I told you I'd gotten one code, and that code was U1013. And basically what it said was that it was having trouble reaching the computer in the transmission. At first, I was a little nervous because I had taken off the cover to the transmission, kind of cleaned it out when I did the whole servicing. But after recording, I ended up seeing something, and I think I found our problem. Now, if you look right there, that white stuff around that tape, that actually goes straight into the transmission connector, that little plug right there. Basically, there's some corrosion there. At least I believe it to be. So I'm thinking there might have gotten some water right in at that spot. I don't know if it happened during the little fender bender or something, but there seems to be some moisture just right down in there. So I think what I'm gonna do right now is to try first to get down into there, clean off all the tape, make sure that there's no wires that are splitting or cracking, because I'm pretty sure that that's going to be the first spot and that there may be a problem. So that's my goal for right now. Some of you guys have been mentioning about the lighting, and I know I need to get lights. I've been trying to do things in stages of where I can and how much I can afford and yada, yada, yada. My next goal is to get this Audi out, and then I talked with my landlord and he approved us to do sheetrock and paint inside the walls of the garage. So that's gonna be coming along with adding some lighting on top of that. So it'll really help liven and brighten up the space and should make things a lot easier for me to work on, honestly, but way more enjoyable for you guys. Anyway, I'm gonna get started ripping into this thing. Okay, so that was an epic fail. I mean, the good news is I searched through all the wires, there's no corrosion. What I thought was corrosion ended up being an old tag that just deteriorated to dust. So that's kind of good news. The bad news is I still don't know what the problem is. I just did a little bit of research. It's kind of hard to find this. It's not common in the Audis. It is kind of common in some Passats, but apparently it might actually be the gear shifter mechanism. There's a micro switch in there that kind of starts to go. And just kind of based on me driving around, I started to smell that medical green smell in here right after I parked it. And from being younger, I remember that lifting up the shifter area is usually the place to hide stuff like that. Sorry, there's certain things YouTube will immediately kick me off for. So I'm gonna go in there, and I'm guessing there's probably something in there, along with maybe someone hit a wire or something on that connector. Let's see what happens. It is the next day. I kind of got lost how to take apart the center console. Basically, I want to take that whole shifter assembly out and check all the micro switches in it, and I don't want to break anything. So I ended up kind of calling it last night, going back onto my like little platform that I have to look up the Audi and go through everything and find out exactly how this is supposed to come out. So I kind of figured that out. So we're probably going to dive back into that today. But before I do that, I do want to finish putting back together the interior buttons and stuff, everything that we painted like 2 episodes ago. They've just been laying around and I don't want them to get damaged. I'm still waiting on a window slide for the rear driver's side, and I still want to keep off the driver's side panel because I had to put the door handle back on, the outside door handle, and I still need to paint the car. So it's kind of like everything kind of needs to stay like half together, half apart. It's kind of annoying, but I do want to kind of clean up and get some parts back together. So I'm going to start assembling all the door panels back together, put the buttons back in, put the buttons and stuff back on the center of the dash, just kind of wrap up everything that I can, and then I'm probably gonna go dive back into that center console and try to yank out the shifter package. See you in a bit. It's the next day. I ended up ripping out that whole center console, and then after I got it all out, I realized I have to jack up the car to remove that shifter panel. I don't think it's that panel. I still want to pull it out, kind of try to see if there's anything dirty or just clogged up or gummy, anything, but it looks pretty dang good. So I don't think that's the issue. I did a bit of research. One guy did say that he had to replace the shifter unit and all the wiring because a mouse got into it. I did have mice in the top of this engine bay. Right when I went to move this car, I popped the hood and a little mouse ran across the top. Speed sensors. I know for some reason mice are attracted to speed sensors, and I don't know if it's because of the magnetism and the humming or something, but I think if the speed sensor was chewed on, it might be popping this code. Gonna look into that later. Right now, what I want to do is I got some boxes in. This one should be the window slide. This is actually for an aftermarket stereo. I'm very happy. Probably won't do that today because I want to make sure the engine and everything's running good. Anyway, I want to open this, install the window, the motor, have the whole back right door finished, and then we only have one door left, which is the driver, but I have to paint that first, which I went and picked up paint, like legitimate paint, and a paint gun, a cheap little Harbor Freight gun, which no paint guy recommends, but it is doable. This was expensive. All said and done, I'm almost 300 bucks in. About 100 will go back to reusables, but a lot of it is turn and burn. I'm really excited. Basically, I got enough clear to do the entire car. I want to put a nice coat over the whole thing after all this work. I know the roof was to the point where it was pitting, so I prefer to just paint the whole car, get one nice thing done. I want to take off this pinstripe that goes down the car, so that's going to scuff the whole thing up anyway, and then I'd have to paint it no matter what. So I figured all this work, getting this to match, fixing the front bumper and all those chips, fixing the back bumper and all those chips, it'd be nice to put a nice full coat on the car, which isn't too bad. All said and done, I think it's about 100 bucks for the clear coat. For right now, I want to do that back window, install everything, install that back panel, and then we'll kind of figure it out from there. All the windows are done, or at least the back window that was broken is finally on. Very happy about that. Now, I think I want to move on to cleaning the entire car, kind of the outside, wiping it down kind of like a dry wash style, because I can't really run a hose and everything and move the car, and just gonna be a pain. So gonna do like a quick dry wash style, try to clean up anything that's stuck on the car, especially the roof. And then I'm gonna wet sand and get this thing prepped for paint. So I think I mentioned my goal is to obviously fix all the spots that need paint. Right, the door, the front bumper, the rear bumper, they all have chipping or the dent that I need to fix. So I want to wet sand all those out, smooth them out, but then the rest of the car, I just want to throw the clear coat on because it's not that good. Might need a little more work. I need to paint up here. I know over there I also have a spot as well. The antenna underneath there is completely chipped away from the paint. But I need to do clear coat on the whole car just because I've realized how rough this clear coat is. So I think you guys can see all that paint, that's kind of dry spray. It's not quite dry. It's not as rough as some of the stuff I've done personally, but it's definitely not a wet look. Now, if you look at this fender, you can't even see anything because it's got the wet look. So basically, this hood's been painted before, this roof's been painted before because they have the same texture, which explains why the paint is chipping off there on the front bumper and on the rear bumper. I think the whole top section was repainted, probably from sun damage, just from being an older car in California. But like I said, I want to wash the whole thing, and then I'm going to wet sand the whole thing. I want to get off this whole pinstripe, clean this whole thing up. I don't want that to exist anymore. And I'm just going to start prepping it to actually be painted. So I'll probably take out the taillights, take out the other headlight, start taping everything up if I reach that far. I've got about 2 hours to get as much of this done as possible. So I think for right now, what I'm going to do is just kind of do a quick montage style. It's just going to be me in fast motion for the next 2 hours. See you guys on the other side. What's up, guys? It is the next morning. Of course, I misjudged how long that was going to take me. Now, it doesn't look that good. But my goal was just to get the majority of the dirt off. I'm still going to do one more wipe and then start sanding. I think most of this is just soap residue stuff. But I really just want to get all the grit off of the roof and the hood and everything. And I had a big problem getting this thing off. I still can't get it off. The antenna cable goes all the way down this panel, all the way down into here somewhere behind a subwoofer. I ripped out a lot of stuff. I started to break this piece right here. I'm kind of bummed. I took out a lot just to get this thing off of here. Once I got it off, I realized this roof has definitely been painted, and part of the reason why this was chipped right here was simply because they painted up until the antenna. So basically they just painted over the antenna and painted over this. Not gonna lie, probably would have done the same. It's not worth the work to yank this thing off, but because of how thick the metallics are in this paint, that's probably why it chipped away after a little bit of sun damage. So anyway, we're gonna sand this all down flat, make it smooth all the way around, give it a nice coat. I'll probably have to suspend this with like a bungee cord or something, or a string, and I'll have to paint this on top. There's no way I'm getting this unhooked. There's way too many panels. Part of the reason I wanted to paint this thing was because I had too many panels and parts everywhere. I got a grill over here, headlights, taillights. Oh, I forgot to show you this. Taillights fell apart into pieces after taking them out. I think they're Junkyard specials from what I looked, and I'm probably gonna go grab some right now actually from the Junkyard. I looked online, they were like 30 bucks to order, but the problem was is it didn't come with this back panel piece, which is basically the majority of the bulbs and the holding and the plug and all that. And unfortunately, try to show in the video, but I don't know if you can see, but I think this is why I was having that U0103 code. Basically that code represents shifting, knowing when the car is in park and drive, going through the Triptronic, all that. But that also entails knowing when the brake pedal's pressed, when the speed sensor is reading speed. And if I was having a short in my brake light, it might have messed up some of the signals. I don't know. The electronics in these cars are very particular, so they're sensitive to reading everything. I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but right now I want to run down to the Junkyard and grab those taillights. I wanted to paint this episode. I'm still hoping to, but I'm starting to be realistic. I don't know if it's going to happen this episode, but at the very least, we'll get the taillights, come back and start wet sanding the whole thing. So anyway, I'm going to head down to the Junkyard. I'll see you guys there. Okay, so that was probably a pretty quick clip. I got down there and I had plans to get floor mats, the hood shock or strut. I was gonna grab the wiring harness I saw for a stereo, and then the taillights. The first three weren't there, they were all gone already. And then I showed up to get the taillights and one of them was already out. Someone had already yanked all the bulbs out. So I only had to get the one taillight out, and I think that was all you guys saw, was me taking out one taillight maybe. Anyway, I was able to get the wire harness. Luckily they don't charge more for that. So if you look at this thing, look at how rusted it got. So just a little bit of water started getting in there, creating moisture, and rusted that out, and then ended up frying the whole back side of this. I really do think this is why I might have my little shifter problems. At least I'm crossing my fingers and definitely making some prayers. But now that I'm back, I want to get to sanding this thing. So I'm gonna probably do a couple more montages because I don't want this to get too boring for you guys. But I have a lot of sanding to do. For instance, on here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 spots. Oh, 7 spots that I need to sand down and make look nice. I'm not too nervous about the bottom. You're never gonna see this. The car sits really low, so this is probably about maybe 6 inches, 8 inches off the ground, if that. But with that said, I'm gonna get started. I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay guys, I have sanded as much as I possibly can right now. Pretty whooped. It was a lot of just minute little stuff. I'm still going to have to do some more, still going to touch up some more. Still trying to figure out how to make the primer fill good. And whether I have to sand more or add actual body filler, I'm kind of confused on that. I might have to do some more body work, at least a little bit. But for now, this is kind of how the bumper came out. And I don't know if you guys can actually see, but there's little spots in here that are just not quite even. There's one you can see. So I had to like sand this out and flatten it out because once the metallics hit it, it's gonna lay in there and kind of create this weird wave effect. I learned that hard many times doing all these cars. So I just have a bunch of little spots like that. And I don't think I got like fillable or buildable primer. I think I just got regular primer to paint over. So that might be my mistake. I might have to add a little Bondo, sand it down. I don't know. I'm gonna kind of find out. The clear coat for the most part is scuffed. The only thing I didn't touch is the back. I still have this little sticker down here that I want to get off, these little golf clubs. I still have to get that off. And I realized also that I have to peel. There's like these little clear coat strips of plastic, like protective plastic on the door jambs and underneath the handles. I need to peel all those off because the driver's door doesn't have it. And like I said, I want to run clear coat down the entire car. So I don't want to clear coat over that. Then I'm going to have probably little air bubbles or gaps or dirt gets caught in it, whatever. I'm going to have the same issue that was the problem up on the roof. But so far, I'm pretty content. I think everything should be ready to go. Probably in the next episode, I will be painting this whole thing and wrapping it up. So with that said, I think that is going to wrap up this episode of Broke Mirror, guys. I did put this video here that I think you guys are going to enjoy. But until next time, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll see you then. Later, guys.